welcome everyone here in Hong Kong on campus, at CityU campus, and elsewhere in Hong Kong, whether you are in your workplaces or at home. And we have some of you joining us in mainland China, in Guangzhou, in Malaysia, obviously, okay, and elsewhere in the world. So a big welcome to all of you. This is a CityU professional training workshop funded by under the PASS scheme. This is the fourth professional training workshop under scheme after Cambodia, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and now we come to Malaysia. So we look forward to 2 more professional training workshops. So, and I would, before we start the very important program and presentation by our distinguished speakers, I'd like to thank our collaborating organizations and also our supporting organizations. This program is supported by CMA Australia, Hong Kong Law Society, the Chinese Association of Accountants, Hong Kong ICPA, and we have also supporting organizations from JCITS and a long list, and also many of our CityU departments and colleges. So thanks to all of us, and of course we have the chambers of commerce from Hong Kong as well. So thank you for all the supporting. Without further ado, I think I should reserve all the time for our speakers and our audience. We hope we have a good panel discussion as well after the presentations. What we will do is that after the CG's opening, which we look forward to in a minute, we will have our 5 distinguished presentations from our speakers. And then after each of the presenters, we hope we'll have a very quick Q&A sessions, okay, in case participants have any burning questions, then you can ask at the time. But please do raise your questions in the chat box functions of the Zoom, okay, so that we can take a look. I will take a look and then I'll call, raise your questions, at the time. So after the presentations, we will come to a panel discussions, and then we will, discuss all the themes and also answer more questions from the participants. Okay, so so let me now welcome CG of Malaysia in Hong Kong, Mr. Yap, to address the meeting. Thank you.
So thanks again. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, speakers and panelists. Thank you for joining us today at the CityU CSHK Past Workshop Series on Malaysia with the Consulate General of Malaysia in Hong Kong. We are delighted to be supporting this event. Thank you too to the CityU Research Center for Sustainable Hong Kong for organizing this workshop together with the sponsor and collaborating and supporting organizations, the whole list that I believe Linda has mentioned just now. Our appreciation too to the Malaysian Investment Development Authority, the MIDA office in Guangzhou, the Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation, MATRADE office in Hong Kong, the Malaysia-China Kuantan Industrial Park, MCKIP, the Hong Kong Productivity Council, the Malaysian Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong and Macau, and also JC Legal for your participation as panelists today. The workshop series on economic and trade cooperation zones along the Belt and Road, focusing on Malaysia today, is highly relevant. Malaysia was among the earliest supporters and participants in the BRI. We were one of the signatories of the BRI communique in 2017, We are also one of the founding members of the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank. Our BRI participation is demonstrated by Chinese collaboration in major infrastructure projects such as the East Coast Rail Link and the Malaysia-China Kuantan Industrial Park. Malaysia continues to support and participate in the BRI to promote equitable, inclusive, and sustainable development in Asia. So Malaysia's active BRI participation is premised on the close relations between Malaysia and China. We share a comprehensive strategic partnership buttressed by historical, cultural, and civilizational ties. While relations have existed for thousands of years, Malaysia established diplomatic ties with China in 1974, and we're quite proud to say that we are the first ASEAN country to do so. So since then, bilateral relations have blossomed, and in the face of COVID-19 adversities, there were opportunities for relations to shine with health, medical, and vaccine cooperation between both countries. This morning's workshop is timely, as Malaysia, like many economies in the region, is working hard towards economic recovery because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. 2020 has been a year of serious challenges for us all, and Malaysia remains committed to being a business and investor-friendly location as we redouble our efforts to enable businesses to thrive. Malaysia has been developing the foundations to transform into a regional leader in the digital economy, for example. Through the recently announced Malaysia Digital Economic Blueprint, we hope to be among the first in the region to build a comprehensive 5G ecosystem. We are also working hard to provide investors with modern-day requirements, incentives, value propositions as a high-tech investment and global operations hub are aimed at enticing a sustainable stream of quality investments and activities into Malaysia. Our government, through MIDA, is persevering with the ongoing reform initiatives and policies in order to further enhance our competitiveness, promote investments, and accelerate national economic development, which is in line with our national investment aspirations. Our national investment aspirations, or NIAs, are meant to guide Malaysia to be a regional investment hub. The NIAs are premised on 5 key goals. 1, create high-value jobs. 2, extend domestic linkages. 3, develop new and existing clusters. 4, create local products and services. And 5, increase economic complexity through sophisticated products and services that use local research and development. To this end, initiatives include MIDA's Project Acceleration and Coordination Unit, which provides end-to-end facilitation for all approved projects to ensure timely and efficient implementation. A special mention a few. So some are 0% corporate tax for 10 to 15 years for foreign companies that relocate to or undertake new investments in high-quality manufacturing activities. The introduction of the Global Trading Center with a preferential income tax rate of 10% for 5 years is another. Another is a special incentive for manufacturing of COVID-19 related pharmaceutical products with a preferential income tax rate of 0 to 10% for 10 years, and a special incentive package with funds valued at $243 billion for high value investments. Our investment strategies are aimed at encouraging and enabling high-tech and sustainable investments. We also hope to boost innovation, strike a balance between economic and environmental sustainability, and reduce the dependency on foreign labor, as well as to get in line with ESG global benchmarks. Malaysia has continuously ranked among the 25 top trading nations in the world, and we are one of the world's top exporters in many sectors, such as electrics and electronics, food ingredients, medical devices, palm oil, furniture, and oil and gas services. Through our National Trade Promotion Agency, the Malaysia External Trade Development Corporation, or MATRADE, Malaysia offers various subsidies to foreign buyers who are looking for alternative suppliers. MATRADE helps link them with capable and reliable Malaysian products and services exporters. Ladies and gentlemen, Malaysia has always been an open trading nation and preferred investment destination. We continue to be very competitive. The DHL Global Connectedness Index 2020 positioned Malaysia second among Asia Pacific countries and 16th out of 169 countries for trade connectivity. A joint study by KPMG and the Manufacturing Institute in the US ranked Malaysia fourth among 17 economies. We are also ranked 12th in the World Bank's Doing Business 2020, and we are ranked 25th, rising 2 places from 2020, and second in ASEAN in the IMD World Competitiveness Rankings 2021. Malaysia's ongoing trade and investment promotion efforts have successfully kept us on the map. I think I've been locked out. Are you still getting me? Yeah. All right. I think it's just reconnecting this. Okay. All right. I think. Okay, just I think I've locked out for a while. So as I was saying, despite the global challenges of the past year, total Malaysia-Hong Kong trade in 2020 of almost 200 billion Hong Kong dollars registered hardly any change from 2019. Total trade expanded a remarkable 81% in 2018 compared with 2017, before dropping 28% in 2019 compared with 2018. Reflecting our robust trade ties, Hong Kong was Malaysia's 7th largest trading partner in 2020, accounting for 2.4% of Hong Kong's total trade. Malaysia and Hong Kong also continue to be close partners in investment cross-flows. In 2020, Hong Kong was the 3rd biggest source of FDI income into Malaysia to the tune of about 7.51 billion Hong Kong dollars. In the first quarter of 2021, approved FDI from Hong Kong was 563 million Hong Kong dollars, making it the 5th largest source of FDI into Malaysia for that period. The reason I mentioned this trade and investment statistics, because I think I was cut off, so I didn't mention it earlier, was just to reflect that Malaysia's ongoing trade and investment promotion efforts have continuously kept us on the map of Chinese and Hong Kong investors. So those stats reflect the excellent status of Malaysia-Hong Kong economic ties at the moment. So it is in this spirit of robust Hong Kong-Malaysia relations that we have continued to reach out to, and we continue to urge Hong Kong and Chinese investors to seize on our competitive advantages, particularly in the high-tech sectors, to consider Malaysia's product offerings and competitive incentives and tax breaks. In pursuing our business and economic partners, we position Malaysia in a global context. We trade with more than 200 countries, and we have a strong relationship with the Middle East and Africa. We are strategically located in the heart of the ASEAN region, and Malaysia is your ideal gateway to ASEAN. Furthermore, investors can also leverage into the opportunities opened up by RCEP, which provides a market of 3 billion people. And we also look forward to eventually welcoming Hong Kong among the first batch of economies joining RCEP. So ladies and gentlemen, with the program laid out in front of us, I'm confident that this workshop will be a productive and very successful one. So thank you once again to CityU and everyone involved for putting this workshop together. I wish you all a successful event.
Thanks, Suji. Thanks, Mr. Yep. Very encouraging, right? We look forward to more successes in Malaysia, and especially more collaboration between Hong Kong and Malaysia in the times to come. Once again, I think we can't say too much about the need for resilience, right? Recent events, whether in Hong Kong or elsewhere, over the world, everywhere, always remind us the need for resilience and a little bit of humor, right? A little bit of humor, because resilience, because we need to continue to apply more efforts in order to close a lot of gaps and the lot of challenges in front of us. But we need a lot of humor, because inevitably we can't always win, right? We can't always do everything we want. So there are bound to be frustrations. There are bound to be gaps outstanding despite all the efforts. So we need to smile all the time. And then, and friendship is the most important, because when we know that we are not alone, then I think we have more energy and capacity to continue and to be resilient still. So I think this is a time, okay, today is a little bit of a demonstration how we do this together, all right, do this together. So shall I pass the time to our first speaker, first presenter, Mr. Sawandi. Mr. Sawandi is the director of MIDA, that is the Malaysian Investment Authority in Guangzhou. All right, he's a consul in charge of investment in the Consul General there. So thanks. Good morning, Sawandi. So you're going to talk about, yes, to talk about how Malaysia remains steadfast to accelerate quality investment today, right? So I look forward to your, yeah. So the time is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. Thanks to the organizer for the day today, CityU CSHK, for inviting MIDA to be one of the speakers for the workshop today. And a very good morning to my Consul General that is in Hong Kong, Mr. Yao Wei Sin, distinguished speakers for today, and also the panelists for today. So without further ado, I'll start my presentation regarding on investment in Malaysia. Yeah, okay. So what is MIDA? MIDA, we are Malaysia Investment Development Authority, and we are the government principal promotion agency to promote investment into Malaysia, especially in the manufacturing and also some of the selected services sector. So our tasks, our function that we divided into about 5 categories, which is under the promotion, evaluation and approval of the project implementation, compliance, and also facilitation. So basically for promotion is what I'm doing now. We promote Malaysia as one of the location for investors to look at in the Southeast Asia. And as for the evaluation and the approval of project, once the company has decided that, okay, Malaysia is the location where there is going to be and to set up their operation. So in terms of the manufacturing license, incentive, expatriate post, that will be under MIDA. All right. As for after the approval of the project, the implementation of the project on the ground, we have our office within the 14 states in Malaysia to assist the company to ensure the project implementation will go smooth. And as for the compliance and facilitation, any advisory require or linkages with the industry ecosystem in Malaysia and such as the industrial park and all that. That's where we come in also to provide the advisory. So MIDA, we don't stand alone as a one organization to do the whole process. We receive support and we cooperate together with other departments and also other ministries, such as the Immigration Department, Royal Malaysian Custom, the utility companies for electricity, water, and industrial gases, Ministry of Finance, and so on. So as a first point of contact under the 5 category, so this is a kind of advisory and facilitation that we offer to the company also when it comes to the post-investment issue, talents required, sourcing of parts and components, engineering support, and adoption of Industry 4.0 technologies, technology collaboration, funding needs, and also e-services. Where we are, our HQ is located in the capital of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, and we have about 20 overseas offices outside of Malaysia. We have 3 in China, which is in Beijing, Shanghai, and also Guangzhou. And my office in Guangzhou is looking after the interests from Hong Kong and also Macau, apart from the southern part of China. So 12 state office in Malaysia to assist our investor with the project implementation. A little bit about the investment performance in the year of 2020. So for the last year, in the year of 2020, $40.7 billion value of investment has been approved, which is into the primary sector, manufacturing, and also services sector. In the manufacturing sector for last year, there was an increase about 10.4%, which contributed by domestic direct investment about 22.6% and foreign direct investment about 3.9%. And this total of manufacturing project that approved last year was about 1,049 projects that has been approved, compared to 2019, where it's only about 988 projects. Some of the projects by the big company that has been approved in Malaysia, such as LAM Research, GBM, Bosch, BYD Group. I'm sure the investors from Hong Kong are quite familiar with the BYD from China, Nippon Electric Glass, UPC, Appendorf, and also Music Tribe. So major source of a foreign direct investment that was approved in the year of 2020 from China is about 17.8 billion ringgit Malaysia. And Hong Kong has always been in the top 10 for Malaysia also. So ongoing focus for Malaysia under the manufacturing sector, we have identified 3+2 industry that we have targeted that are going to spur the economic growth in Malaysia, which is in the electrical and electronic industry, machinery and equipment industry, chemical, medical devices, aerospace industry. This is the key industry that we have targeted that are going to spur and grow the economic development in Malaysia. As for the services, we are looking forward to any company that are going to put up and set up in Malaysia as a global regional hub, headquarters hub, conduct activities such as a headquarters, distribution hubs, engineering hubs, and also procurement hubs. These are some of the global operation that has already established in Malaysia and set up their operation in Malaysia to supply their products and also services through Malaysia. So what do we offer Malaysia to the investors? As at since 1960s, more than 500 industrial park has been established and developed in Malaysia. And as at today, 141 industrial park is readily available for investor. There is cut across throughout all Malaysia, from the north to the southern, from Penang Port, Port Klang, Johor, where it is in the west coast of Malaysia. And along the east coast of Malaysia, we have a Kerteh Port and Kemaman Port. And in the Borneo side, Bintulu and also Sabah, which is a POIC Port and Sapangla Bay. So basically, this is to support any interest from the investor that would like to use Malaysia as their global operational hub and service They provide product and services through Malaysia for global market. So some of the industrial park, this is in Johor under the Pengerang Industrial Park, which is to cater the petrochemical industry. Samalaju Industrial Park, for any project that is energy intensive, we will recommend them to go to Sarawak, Samalaju Industrial Park. Yeah. So Malaysia, strategically located in the Southeast Asia, and the Southeast Asia is estimated to grow by 4.9% for over the next 5 years. And it is one of the fastest growing economic regions in the world with a GDP growth of 5.3% over the last 20 years or so. Our policy in Malaysia for manufacturing, foreigners are allowed to hold 100% equity ownership in the manufacturing and some of the selected services sector. So there is no issue whether you need to have a local equity or not, but we welcome any interest for foreign investor to join venture with a Malaysian and set up their operation in Malaysia. As when the company set up in Malaysia also, in terms of repatriation of income, it is a freedom to repatriate capital, interest, dividend, and profit back to their host country. We offer also employment of expatriate. Once you set up in Malaysia, of course, you need some of your technical people to come and work in Malaysia. Posts such as a key post and term post can be applied by the company. Intellectual property, IP protection. Our IP laws are in accordance with the international standards. And we also sign investment guarantee agreement with more than 60 countries to protect our investors. Competitive investment incentive, as mentioned by my Consul General earlier also, we offer a corporate tax exemption. So several type of package such as a pioneer status, investment tax allowance, reinvestment allowance for existing investor in Malaysia that going for expansion or setting up a new facility in Malaysia. And also we do time to time look into customized package investment incentive. So since this COVID-19 pandemic situation grasping the world, so we introduced a few incentives. So for new company that are relocating or setting up in Malaysia with an investment between 300 to 500 ringgit million, 0% tax rate for 15 years, 0% tax rate for 15 years in manufacturing sectors, and then investment tax allowance, 0% tax rate for 10 years for investment between 300 to 500 million ringgit, and anything more than 500 million will be 0% tax rate for 15 years. To support the investor needs in Malaysia, we have an abundance of a talented human capital where local universities in Malaysia and also international university in Malaysia setting up in Malaysia to support the investors' needs. Okay, I'm going to show some of the developed ecosystem in Malaysia. Okay, this in the case of a semiconductor industry, from R&D towards the EMS. These are some of the foreign and also local company that's already established in Malaysia. So for any MNC in the E&E industry that would like to come in and set up in Malaysia, there's a strong support available in Malaysia. So there's no issue on that. All right. Mold and die, metal casting, machining, and so on. This is the machinery and equipment industry status, MNE. The ecosystem. Pharmaceutical industry in Malaysia. Petrochemical industry in Malaysia. Right. So this the example that I've shown to you is all under the targeted sector by the government of Malaysia, which is electrical, electronic, medical devices, chemical industry, machinery, and engineering. So apart from the support system in the infrastructure in Malaysia itself, Malaysia will continue to offer a flexible business environment by signing free trade agreements. So we can't rely on just a domestic market. So we open up the market for the investor through Malaysia. So 16 free trade agreement has been signed with a total of market of 4.0 billion population. Regional RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, as you all are most aware of, between the 10 ASEAN member countries and 5 ASEAN FTA partner countries. Some of the standing, Malaysia, where does Malaysia stands? This is also to complement from what my Consul General, Mr. Yap Wen Sin, has mentioned earlier. We are the first world best country to invest. Is under the CEO World Magazine in 2019. Most attractive emerging market in Asia also by Bloomberg 2018. Some of the new initiatives introduced by MIDA since last year, we already start with the e-services, provide e-service facilitation to the company. Those time back then, we used to receive a hard copy application. But nowadays, investors can just fill in the application such as the incentive, import duty exemption, expatriate post, grant, domestic sales, and so on through online. So this can be accessed through MIDA website or investmalaysia.mida.gov.my. PACU is another unit where we have established within MIDA is to assist company in the project implementation. Some of the successful case here under the Aspen Glove Syndrome Berhad implemented their project within 7 months from their approval of a manufacturing license by MIDA. This goes along from the construction until to the operation. So with this COVID pandemic still going on, MIDA, we have never stopped. We have never stopped investors to come to Malaysia to conduct their feasibility study or even project implementation. We introduced a one-stop center for business travelers, which we categorize into 2 types, short-term and also long-term. For any short-term, under the short-term category, which is a visit in Malaysia, less than 14 days, the company or the representative can be exempted from the quarantine, subject to the guideline imposed. As for anything, visit more than 14 days, it has to go through the quarantine. So we also set up the OAC website, the one-stop center for safetravel.mida.gov.my. So for any investors that would like to come into Malaysia, visit Malaysia to conduct their feasibility study, they can just go through on the website safetravel.mida.gov.my and submit their application. So this is our one-stop center that we have established within KLIA, Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Some pictures of it. And with that, thank you. So I welcome to all the interest to make Malaysia as your profit center in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savandi. Thank you. Yeah. For very informative, overview, of the investment promotion policies implemented by MIDA and also the support services, available to potential investors. Well, I think we have 1 or 2, minutes for very quick questions in case we have some participants having some burning questions. So may I ask anyone? I haven't seen questions in the chat box yet. So anyone have any quick questions? Well, If not, then maybe you need more time to think about it. Mr. Savandi, please stay with us, okay? So because
Sure.
to share with us more your views and during the panel discussions. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Well, so shall we move on to the next presenter in this session? After Savandi's and Mr. Savandi's introduction of the broader policy, investment policy, we'd like to know a bit more about one of the special economic zones, industrial parks in being developed in Malaysia. They have a good number of very vibrant parks, some under construction, some already up and running. So this is the Guan Industrial Park, a joint initiative by Malaysia and also China. It's one of these vibrant facilities. So today we are honored to have Mr. Phoon Kok Lee, who's a senior manager in the industrial park, to share with us some more details about the park management and the policies and what's on there. So, Mr. Phoon?
Yeah.
So
thanks for presenting that.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Phong, project manager from Malaysia China Kuantan Industrial Park. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizer for giving me an opportunity to give the introduction on MCGIP. Okay. For your knowledge, MCGIP, Malaysia China Kuantan Industrial Park, is the first national industrial park in Malaysia. So jointly developed by both Malaysia and China. So this is a G2G industrial park, and whereby in Malaysia, we have Malaysia China Kuantan Industrial Park, which call it MCGIP. And in China, we have this China Malaysia Qingzhou Industrial Park, CMQIP, which is a sister park for MCGIP. So for this MCGIP, we have the Malaysia Consortium, which is about the share is about 51%, and the China Consortium which is about 49%. So for the Malaysian Consortium, we have a company in IJM, Sandabi, and also the PSK, which is a Pahang state government. And for the China Consortium, this consists of the Peipu Gulf Port Group and also the Qingzhou Investment Development. Okay, why you need to invest in MCGIP? Because MCGIP is strategically located in the largest state in West Malaysia, which is Pahang state. So for your knowledge, Pahang is rich with the natural resources, and Malaysia is also readily available multi-ethnic local workforce. And also Malaysia is also located in the natural disaster free zone, and also located in the new international land sea trade corridor, which is to the connectivity and development of the region. Okay, for MCGIP, because it's nearby, there's a Kuantan Port. So Kuantan Port is strategically located at the center of Asia, which is facing the South China Sea. So from Kuantan Port to the Qingzhou Port, the shipping time is about 3 to 4 days, while to other Chinese ports is about 4 to 8 days. Okay, in MCGIP, from MCGIP to the Kuantan Port is about 12 kilometers, and to Kuantan Airport is about 36 km, and also to the Kuantan Town is about 20 km, and to the capital city of Malaysia, which is Kuala Lumpur, which is about 271 km. Okay, this is the MCGIP. The land size total area is about 3,500 acres. So we have MCGIP 1, 2, and 3. For MCGIP 1 is about 1,200 acres. MCGIP 2 is about 1,000 acres, and MCGIP 3 is about 1,300 acres. So the nearest MCGIP 3 to the Kuantan Port is about 5 km. So for MCGIP 1 and 2, we focus on the heavy and medium industry, while for the MCGIP 3 is the mixed development, which consists of warehouse, logistics, like industry, commercial, and residential. So we welcoming the industry as follow to be invested in MCGIP, such as steel and non-ferrous metal industry. Second, machinery and equipment manufacturing. Third, clean technology and renewable energy. Fourth, chemical and specialized chemical industry. Fifth, electrical and electronic industry. And the last one is the R&D, which is research and development. So this is the status of investment currently in MCGIP for the approved and operating investor. So the total investment value, which is about 6.11 billion. And we have this modern integrated steel milling, concrete spun pulp manufacturing, and also the battery manufacturing. So this is the MCGIP1, which already the factory which is already operating, which is Alliance Steel. So it consists of 710 acres land, which the investment value is about 5.6 billion. And annually, they can produce high carbon steel and heavy steel, which is about 3.5 million tons. Okay, this is the MCGIP3, the industry concrete products in MCGIP3, which already start operating. And this is the camel power, also in MCGIP3, we already start operating. Okay, for the approved investor by the government, the total investment value, which is about 6.5 billion. And the committed investor, which already signed some EOI with the MCGIP, which is about total investment value is about 7.5 billion. And we have potential investor about 20.5 billion, which we currently license with them, still license with them. So this is the MCGIP1 master plan. So basically, MCGIP1, we are still with ready infrastructure, which means there is the earthwork platform, ready with the earthwork platform, sewerage, roadworks, water regulations. So the vacant area now is still got about 27% out of 1,200 acres. So this is the MCGIP1 phase 2 overall views. The infrastructure works we will target to be completed by mid of next year. So this is a site photo. Okay, this is the MCGIP2. The total area is about 1,000 acres, which we divide into 3 lots, lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3. Currently available only lot 3 with about 300 acres. Lot 1, we have these tires manufacturing, and also lot 2 is for paper milling. So this is the overall view of MCGIP2. Okay, MCGIP3, we have this battery manufacturing and also this spun pulp manufacturing. We already start operating, and we have the logistic hub, the industry, commercial office, shopping mall, and the service apartment and residential, but all these are still under planning stage. So this is the MCGIP3 perspective master plan. Okay, for Malaysia government, they give the strong support to the MCGIP by helping to construct the highway interchanges and also the main access roads to connect to the MCGIP. Okay, this is the incentive for investor in MCGIP by the Malaysian government. So first is the 100% corporate income tax exemption up to 15 years, commencing from the year company derived statutory income for investment that produce high value added products and provides high technology transfer or undertake R&D activities. Second is the import duty exemption for raw materials, parts and components, plants, machinery, equipment, spare parts and consumables that are not produced locally and used directly in the production activity. And third is the stamp duty exemption on transfer or lease of land or building used for the development. and all other existing ECR, East Coast Economy Region incentive. Okay, as briefed just now, MCGI, nearby to MCGIP, there's a Guan port. So this is the total existing Guan port for facility photos, which is total acreage of existing port is about 1,557 acres, which consists of 22 berths. Okay. And this is the existing Guan port photo. Okay, Malaysia government also gives a strong support to the Guan port by invest about 1.1 billion to construct a new breakwater, 4.7 kilometer new breakwater, and also with the external infrastructure, with the roadworks, water, electricity supply, and also the telecommunication services. So this is the photo JCC meeting, Joint Cooperation Council meeting. And that's all my presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Foon. Well, we have a couple of minutes. See whether we have questions for questions. Any questions from the participants here in this room as well? Yeah, you're welcome to raise any questions to on the Guan Industrial Park. May I raise a question then? Usually, you know, the chair, you know, I have to exercise this prerogative, okay? You know, lest it would expire if I don't use it. And Mr. Foon, you know, you outlined, you know, what has been achieved so far, right? And also some of the incentives. So may you also share with us some of your challenges? Because I think as an academic, we are fully aware that things always have both sides, right? And then understanding some of your challenges actually may help prospective investors and to understand, you know, how they can help to, you know, help you to fill some of the gaps, and then as how to avoid some of the issues there. So I wonder you can share some of these observations.
Okay, sure. So I think the most challenges now in this last year and this year is the COVID-19 pandemic, which actually there's some delay on the infrastructure works, construction progress, which already been delayed. So actually we are charging up. As you know now, our site works now have been stopped for a few months, but now they just continue. And then for the investor side, I think because I think there's some investor, they are interested in our MCGIP, but because due to the COVID-19 pandemic, they cannot come. But luckily, last year, MIDA, they have launched this short business traveler program for the investor. They may exempted for the quarantine, which I think they, definitely can help the investor to come and for the site visit to help to invest in MCGIP. So for the investment, I think mostly they face the problem is in the they want to get the local authority approval. So, but actually we also help them in the state government and also help them in getting the approval, like this planning approval for the construction. So that our Malaysian government really help the investor so that they can to start their constructions for their factory. Yeah, that's all. Okay.
Thanks. That's very helpful to know, because the COVID is actually always a challenge, you know, for all the world, and then we always have to be flexible, right? Always have flexible and responsive to the changing situations. Well, I think if we don't have any burning questions at this point, I think it's time for a break, and then we have 10 minutes.
Hello, good morning, distinguished guests here at CityU and the audience online. It is my pleasure to present you with an overview of how the Hong Kong Productivity Council is supporting companies to go abroad, especially to the Malaysian market. So as we know, Malaysia has joined quite a few international trade and economic alliances. So as you know, Malaysia has joined quite a few international trade and economic alliances, including ASEAN, FTA, RCEP, etc., coupling its macroeconomic policy support, comprehensive business-ready environment, future-forward focus, and dynamic skilled workforce. So no doubt it is a popular place for Hong Kong companies to do business there. In addition, Malaysia's manufacturing sector plays an important role in the global supply chain. It is also a significant trading partner of other ASEAN countries, which reinforces its position in manufacturing. Also, the Malaysian government is encouraging advanced technology industries to establish in the country, and there should be a lot of collaboration opportunities between companies of both Hong Kong and Malaysia. Sorry. I'm trying to change my slide here, but okay, there you go, okay. So at HKPC, we strive to help local SMEs and startups on technology transformation and commercialization, so whether they are local or abroad. Now, not only do we provide technical expertise and support, we also promote and support various government funding schemes through our SME Reach Out team and our funding branch, as well as facilitating the exchanges of innovative ideas through our Innopreneur network. So let me first elaborate more about the funding side on how local companies can make use of our platform and services to connect and create opportunities. The most relevant funding scheme is the BUD fund, which is a dedicated fund on branding, upgrading, and domestic sales. Under the HKSAR government, the funding is to assist companies in exploring and developing mainland and overseas markets. The geographical coverage of the BUD fund includes not only mainland China, but also ASEAN and other economies with which Hong Kong has signed the free trade agreement and also the investment promotion and protective agreements, IPPA, to assist companies in taking the economic opportunities. So here are more companies, more countries that are involved in the BUD fund. Some are coming up in 2022. And of course, Malaysia is one of the countries here. So regarding the funding will provide companies with a 50-50 matching on a 50-50 matching basis of the total project costs in cash. The maximum funding amount per project is capped at 1 million Hong Kong dollars. And each company may obtain funding for a maximum of 60 approved projects, and the total accumulative funding amount is 6 million Hong Kong dollar under the BUD fund. And the scope of the funding would involve setting up a new business entity, recruit additional manpower, procure additional machinery, produce sample, prototype, advertisement, exhibitions, design and production of promotion materials, online sales platform, testing certification, and also external audit fees. So Malaysia actually is the second most targeted countries among the FTA countries under the program. And actually, among the approved programs of ASEAN projects, there were 248 projects that were approved going to Malaysia since its launch. And the accumulated funding approved for ASEAN projects has been Hong Kong dollar 356 million. So here I would like to share with you a successful case. Botier is a Hong Kong-based company. It is a mobile e-commerce platform for SMEs to set up their own online stores. So they see the great potential in developing business in the Southeast Asia, and they selected Malaysia as the first stop to expand their business. So using the Bud Fund, 2 projects were completed in 2018 and 2019, each of an amount of around Hong Kong dollar 1 million. So the Bud Fund helps them set up an office, hire local staff, do business registration, trademarks, create company website, advertisement, and promotions, etc. So over there, we have a QR code. If you would like to learn more about some of the successful cases, you can scan the QR code to look into the BUD funding website. And at HAPC, we also have an SME reach out team to facilitate local companies on the BUD fund applications, which is also a free of charge service. So the SME reach out team is actually funded by the Trade and Industry Department. We can offer one-on-one consultation service. So if you are interested on any of the fundings, you may set up a one-on-one consultation, ask us questions on the funding applications. We can also review your forms to make sure that you have submitted the right documentations before you actually apply for the fund. There are 4 main funding schemes that SMEs usually would apply for. And one is, of course, the BUD fund. And we also support other funding such as the SME Export Marketing Fund, the Technology Voucher Program, and the Expertise Support Schemes. And in addition, we want to strengthen our network with SMEs in Hong Kong to understand their needs. We have created the Innopreneur Network, which offers different activities to engage entrepreneurs of SMEs and startups, both online and offline. So offline, we do bootcamps, forums, or talks. And then online, we do have e-booths and e-clinics to help SMEs to set up their one-on-one consultations on different various business issues that they might have. So you are welcome to sign up here at the QR code as well to learn more. So in this network, we have already organized quite a few activities. The network actually has started just a few months ago, since May this year. And we already have a few events focusing on different technology areas, such as we focus on food tech. We had a forum focused on F&B and also the MarTech as well. And online, we do have a platform that offers e-booths and e-clinics. So right now we have over 70 trade associations, corporates and NGOs that are in the network. So what we do is we want to SMEs and startups to have an exchange on any new technology applications, the industry pain points or innovative ideas, as well as their entrepreneurial stories. So here you can see our platform online, which offers free consultations to help with some of the business issues you may have. And for us at HAPC, we also provide free consultations on, of course, the funding of from the government, as well as some of the digital transformation on technology, infrastructure, ESG, green technology, on smart manufacturing, and also IP management as well. So here are the associations that we have already involved. We do hope that we could invite as many local associations as possible, because we want the network to grow more and to assist more companies here in Hong Kong. So a glance of some of our recent activities as well. We did a regional InnoTech Summit back in April, and with a startup community called Antralink. So in this event, we organized together with some of the international speakers to share like what innovative technology that they're looking for, and the startups that could provide some of the solutions. And of course, when we do a lot of activities on ASEAN countries, because we also want to promote, companies going on abroad if they are looking at investing abroad, and to make use of also the government fundings and our service as well. So this is about all of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. I think this is actually very delightful sharing. And I'm so pleased to see that, the Innopreneur platform that Karen just shared with us, it start running this May, right? Because for a long time, Hong Kong as an international city, we have done a great job in inviting, welcoming inward investment from the rest of the world, right? We started a one-stop service, decades ago, okay, decades ago. And so, but now we are stepping up our efforts to encouraging our innovative SMEs, and of course the bigger enterprises, okay, but especially our numerous SMEs to venture abroad. Because as an international city, we are aiming at the rest of the world as well, right? And then that's where where's the market are, and our people, our talented people, can really expand our horizon, and then the sky is the limit. Right? So I'm so pleased, and so please. I think that this message need to be put across to more people across the board, and so I think our young people and also our many SMEs are most welcome to take advantage of the new facilities that are available at Hong Kong PC to explore future opportunities. So. Well, any burning questions at this moment? Let me check. Any questions from this room? I haven't seen any online questions right now. Maybe people are still need to warm up. Then in that case, I asked pass on to the next presenter. Okay, Karen, you have to stay here. Okay, right. So the next presenter in this session is distinguished Dato Lawrence Liu, who is the Deputy Chairman of the Malaysia Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong. All right, Lawrence, you are going to talk to share with us the investment opportunities from a very your personal perspective and plenty of experience of investment and of course cross-border work, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, thank you. So the time is yours. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Lee. First of all, I'd like to thank you to CityU Center Research Center for the Sustainable Hong Kong, and also good afternoon or good morning to our Consul General, Mr. Yap. And first of all, thank you. I'd like to briefly explain what MACHAM is. MACHAM is a Malaysian Chamber of Commerce for Hong Kong and Macau. Malaysians have been in Hong Kong for many, many years. Myself is over 30 years, but I've got friends who are here been over 40 years. But as a chamber, we are relatively new. And today we have about 500 members. And surprisingly, we have a high percentage of our members who are actually non-Hong Kong, are non-Malaysians. They could be Hong Kong companies, Hong Kongers, and foreigners. So basically, I think that will also represent the kind of a business interests of those living in Hong Kong in Malaysia. And we are creating a platform for both countries to communicate, share, and basically explain more of each other. So myself, I'm Malaysian, but been in Hong Kong for many, many years. So I personally would like to share my experience of doing business in Malaysia, because as a Malaysian, but I do invest in Malaysia. But when I do invest in Malaysia, I also decide where I want to invest in Malaysia, or is Malaysia the best place? Because, you know, businessmen are very driven by numbers, business case, and financial advantages, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to, personally, as an accountant, I'd also like to talk a little bit on the number side. I don't intend to repeat what Sawadi has been saying, but I just want to say from the Hong Kong perspective, because Hong Kong person always put the rest of the world and compared to Hong Kong as a benchmark, because Hong Kong person understand Hong Kong very well, and they say, how does it compare to Hong Kong? So in terms of the populations, we are much bigger. We are 32 million. Hong Kong is 7.5 million. But in terms of the physical size, we are 300 times bigger than Hong Kong. So whatever apartment that you're living here, you can live 5 times the size in Malaysia, if you decide to live in Malaysia. Then you still can afford it. In terms of GDP size, I'd like to share that actually Hong Kong, Singapore, and Malaysia, we are very similar. In terms of numbers, we are ranging Singapore sometimes ahead of Hong Kong, and then Malaysia was slightly below Singapore. But in terms of these 3 places, we are very similar. But since the population size are very different, henceforth, you realize that our GDP per capita in Malaysia is very, relatively speaking, very low. We are about a fraction or quarter of Hong Kong. We're 11,000 plus, and Hong Kong is about 48,000. So I think this, in a way, reflects the price of everything you can find in Malaysia. So when the GDP per capita, one fraction of 25% of Hong Kong, you see the much difference in that respect. I think this is a point that I think we should remember, because here, Malaysia, I always say Malaysia is like, you go to Malaysia, you can get the quality of a Mercedes, but you pay the price of a Toyota. I think this is a very easy way to compare, the 2 places. You go there, you can have things that are very good, but then you pay the price, a fraction of what Hong Kong is. So remember, you pay for Toyota price, you get a Mercedes when you go to Malaysia. Your dollar stretch a lot. I think this is something that you really wanted to bear in mind when you talk a little bit about Malaysia. Okay, what I briefly just said is that, but I think one point that you can be sure of is the skilled laborers you have in Malaysia. We have very, very highly skilled labor, very, very highly skilled. And we produce a lot of engineers, lawyers, accountants, you name it, we have it. Infrastructure-wise, we are probably one of the best in Asia. Our physical infrastructure is amazing. Our highways, our roads are fantastic. You can drive for hours and you don't have to hit a traffic light. You can literally do that. You can drive for 2 hours and you don't hit a traffic light. But beware of the speed limit, that's all. Digital-wise, we are very good. Our internet connection is very, very good, whether it's your mobile phone and whether it's your broadband at home. Also, again, the price is still very competitive. So we have abundance of natural resources, the agro, the durian you eat in Hong Kong, most likely is from Malaysia, and the oil and gas, that is on natural resources side. On the production side, actually, I always like to use the word semiconductors instead of E&E, because very often people say, oh, Malaysia produces a lot of E&E, electronics and electrical. Actually, our electrical is not producing DVD machines or radios. It's really more on semiconductors. So all the semiconductors that you have in your phones, in your laptops, very likely is going to be an Intel, NVIDIA, Intel, AMDs, and so on, Motorola's and so on. And basically, these are basically in Malaysia. You see, Penang is our Silicon Valley of the East. The chief minister of Penang many, many years ago, when the rest of Asia was really not waking up, so he went to US and said, come to invest in Malaysia. We have water, we got electricity, and we got a lot of good engineers. So Intel started in Penang about 30, 40 years ago, way before anybody else. So we have the advantage of having that lead. So today, if you talk about the semiconductor industries, if you go to Suzhou or Silicon Valley, there's a very high chance you actually see Malaysian engineers working there, because they were the pioneers in the early days. Like in my time, when I started graduating, a fraction of my friends would probably say, okay, I want to do engineering, do semiconductors. They probably join people like Intel and AMD. So these have been quite a popular career at that time, and it still is right now. So As I said, 37% of our exports are actually in semicon. So it's a big percentage, huge. So everybody thinks, oh, Malaysia is agro, it's a lot of agricultural product. Actually, our manufacturing base is extremely strong. I think it's partly because of the government initiatives and also because of the head start that we had in the early days. And then the location-wise, I think we had a lot of advantage. Okay, I think Sawadi mentioned a little bit about how it can be 100% foreign owned, because I think a lot of Hong Kong people has a thinking that, oh, I need to have a Malaysian partner to own a property or to own a land or industrial building. No, actually, you can own 100% company, foreign owned. And then there's no restrictions on overseas remittances. You can bring your money in, you bring your money out. The only thing is you need to register, when you bring it in, you need to inform why is it there, so that you basically make it official. And then when you bring it out, obviously you have reason to support your case as a dividend, repatriations, you're free to move in and out. Our corporation tax is not as low as Hong Kong, but it's still not that high, it's 24%. And beauty part is actually there's no withholding tax for dividend payment to Hong Kong. So we don't, your income is not taxed twice, like not like in US. The profit is taxed at a company level. And when the shareholders get the money, the shareholders get 100% of the dividend income. And that is part that I think we should bear in mind. It's similar to Hong Kong. And obviously our land is relatively cheap. Construction cost is cheap. Electricity and water are abundant and it's quite cheap as well. I think these are the ideal place for high value product. I think also high value because I think Malaysia today wants to produce, attract manufacturing of high value, not labor intensive. So I think our population size is relatively small. So we are looking for the high value product. That is on the manufacturing side. I'm now looking into more as a base for Hong Kong companies as an example. As you know, ASEAN is a zone with 10 countries. And I would say that I think the ideal location to set up a regional HQ is actually in Malaysia. The reason is because we have the good multilingual staff. In fact, language-wise, officially we are actually bilingual. When I say bilingual is because if you go to any of the government website, you can actually access the information in Bahasa Malaysia and also in English, which you might not find it in many other ASEAN countries. And this is very important, you know. So if you walk into any website, you can actually browse, you can find everything you want on the website from the government agencies, not only for MIDA and MATRADE, but also for any other, like your income tax department, your MPF department equivalent, and so on and so forth. Basically, everything you find is basically bilingual. I think this is a part that we should not ignore, and this would obviously continue. But when you go to the street level, then you're actually saying trilingual. Then the Chinese comes in, and then not only trilingual, and then maybe it's dialect-wise, you got more than that, and also then Indian as well. So if you're tackling an Indian market, you know, you can get a guy to base in Kuala Lumpur to handle the Indian market as well, as an example. So I think that is a part I think you should not ignore, and I think therefore is something that you should seriously consider. And a couple of years ago, Jack Ma went to Malaysia, struck a deal with our previous Prime Minister, and he created the Digital Free Trade Zone. I think this is a part that you should not ignore because Lazada, which is 100% owned by Alibaba, is one of the biggest Taobao equivalent in Malaysia, and they are playing a big part in creating this digital free trade zone. So I think this is basically what the free trade zone is all about. It's an e-fulfillment hub. It's a satellite service hub because satellite service is because you're going to cover the whole of Southeast Asia. So you create one hub to cover the Southeast Asia. And because of ASEAN, we have a lot of free trade, a lot of tax advantages and so on. So therefore, I think with the infrastructure that we have, plus the other advantages that you can find, I think if anybody is looking into trying to expand into the ASEAN market, which you cannot ignore, then you should seriously consider Malaysia. So I just want to quickly go through the maps. You know, we have the West Malaysia and the East Malaysia. And that's why combined size we're actually quite big. And you look at location, we're right. Indonesia on the south, Thailand is on the north, Singapore is on the south, and Philippines is on the northeast. And basically that would actually cover the location-wise. I think when you go to Malaysia, please bear that in mind. Sometimes you go to one state and you look at it and say, hey, this is not what I want. You see, Malaysia is a country with 13 states. And each state has a strength and weaknesses. So you should actually pick the right state. So if you go to Malaysia once and say, okay, I went to state A, that's it, I don't find what I want there. Maybe you didn't go to the right state. So now you say, okay, shall I now explore what state you want? So because in every state, they have their own investment agency like Invest Hong Kong. So every state has their own agency to promote in Hong Kong dollar. So to get a PhD working for me at 25 years old and paying 30,000 Hong Kong dollar per month is a hell of a deal. I cannot find that even in Guan, as an example. And then I have a guy that can speak 3 languages and so on. So I think this is a part that you should try to see, you know, what you can find what you want. So therefore, and please do contact us or contact our state, our investment agencies in Hong Kong, and we'll be happy to like you to join us as a member. Then you can really know more Malaysians through us, know Malaysia through us, who can give you the Hong Kong perspective, because you've realized that most of the Malaysians you find here are very, very veteran in Hong Kong. With that, I will just hang over to the organizer, and thank you for your interest in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lawrence Liu, for very informative sharing. Okay, he shared a lot of intelligence, in fact, right? Okay, about you know what are the tips and why we should consider you know why Malaysia would be very attractive as an investment venue. Well, before we move on to our third speaker in this session, and I'd like to say whether there's any burning questions for Hong Kong PC. Well, Karen is going to leave us because she got an urgent meeting. Well, Karen, maybe I would relay any questions to you, okay? So she would be on our contact platform. So yeah. All right, so our next presenter, distinguished presenter, it's Ms. Janice Chu. Janice is principal of, she is a solicitor, okay, and a principal of legal practice in Hong Kong as well as in Malaysia, JC Legal, and she's also the deputy chair lady of Malaysian Association of Hong Kong, which specialize in, you know, enhancing the bonding and exchanges, cultural exchanges, as well as business affairs between Malaysia and Hong Kong. So Janice, you are going to share with us from your legal practice perspective, right, some of the insights about when if people want to do business with Malaysia, start a business, or so what are some of the things that they need to know, all right? And because you have a very robust joint border, cross-border practice, okay? So you got a lot of experience and you serve a lot of clients working on these as well. So the time is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Linda. Thank you for the organizer for inviting me to share the insights on how to structure your business in Malaysia. Good morning, CJ of Malaysia, Mr. Yap. Yeah, so because I have limited time today, so I'm going to break it to 3 parts, very short. So how to set up your company in Malaysia and the employer's obligations and a case study. So when we say setting up a company in Malaysia, so I would say it's pretty similar to set up the company in Hong Kong. So the authority is Companies Commissions of Malaysia, we call SSM. So it's similar to the company registry in Hong Kong, the functions. So the entity, apparently, if you want to set up a company in Malaysia, the only entity that is available for foreigner is what we call Sendirian Berhad, which is equivalent to private limited company in Hong Kong. So we also have offshore entity. in Malaysia. So we call Labuan company. I believe most of the people around, they might know what is an offshore entity in Malaysia, which is Labuan. So the pay up capital is ringgit Malaysia, $1. It's about $2 Hong Kong for one share. So I might want to elaborate more on the pay up capital. So when we talk about the pay up capital, there are certain, if you are 100% foreign owned company in Malaysia, so if you are providing a consultancy business, the advisory and consultancy businesses, and you are 100% foreign owned, then the minimum pay up capital we are talking here is about ringgit Malaysia 500,000. It's about 1 million Hong Kong dollars. So if you are doing like import, exports, restaurants, trading businesses, then there will be a minimum pay up capital. We are talking about ringgit Malaysia 1 million. It's about 2 million Hong Kong dollar. And there are another entity that people intend to go into is joint venture. So you would like to joint venture with a Malaysia company. So the Malaysia partner need to have at least 50% above for the shareholdings control. And then the minimum pay up capital we are talking about is about 700,000 Hong Kong dollar. So equivalent to around 350,000 ringgit Malaysia. So for the formations, it's pretty similar like in Hong Kong, 1 shareholders at least, and 1 resident director, age 18 and above, with a residential address in Malaysia, and 1 company secretary, which it's a bit different in Malaysia from Hong Kong, because the company secretary in Malaysia, you need to be prescribed by a professional bodies with residence within Malaysia. So registered address, of course, you need to have a business address in Malaysia. So there is one question that my clients always ask me is, if I'm a Hong Kong citizen and a passport holder, can I be a director of the Malaysia company? So the answer is pretty straightforward, yes, but you need to have 1 resident director. So for instance, if let's say you have only 1 director, so that director need to be a resident director. But if you as a Hong Kong citizen, you want to be a director, then you have to have another director who is a resident director. Yeah. So now we move to the employer's obligations. Why I put employer's obligation into this sharing is because the labor law in Malaysia and in Hong Kong, it's very different. Yeah. So there is this new rules just passed in Malaysia called Etiquette. So this is passed during January 2021, which is this year. So any eligibility for 100% foreign owned company, which is a pay up capital of 500,000, if you want, for instance, if you set up a company in Malaysia, you want to apply foreign worker permits for your, you want to bring someone from Hong Kong to Malaysia, then you might need to have a process that they just implemented in Apex. So basically, they want you to advertise the job vacancy at least 30 days in the My Future Jobs portal. So the reason why they have this is because they wanted the company try to use a local talent in Malaysia. But having said that, as what Mr. Savadi just mentions, there are certain exceptions. So if the employees that you are going to apply, their salary is more than ringgit Malaysia 15,000, we are talking about 30,000 and above. So that would be subject to exemptions. And if the expatriate is holding a key positions, and also if let's say you own the company for more than a minimum of more than 30% in the company, and is the directors and hold positions of interest in that company, you can apply for exemptions. Yeah, so this is a bit different from before. So before it's pretty straightforward. You can go and apply for employment visa. So just to let you know, in Malaysia, there is no business visa. So you have to either use employment visa. You need to have an employment visa. Yeah, so this is quite important to take note. So yeah. now we come to what we call a minimum wage. So just now, Dr. Lawrence already say you are using a price of paying a price of Toyota and you get the Mercedes-Benz or Rolls-Royce quality. So I'm kind of agree with that. You can see the minimum wage is 1,200 per month, which is it's already a minimum wage. We are talking about 2,400 per month. Yeah, and then if you talk about per hour, it's about $11 Hong Kong dollar per hour. Yeah. So there is this statutory leave. So if you work in a company less than 2 years, so your entitlement is 8 days of annual leave. Sick leave is 14 days. 2 to 5 years, 12 annual leave and 18 days of sick leave. More than 5 years is 16 and 22 days of sick leave. That would be some basic entitlement that you might want to look into. So here we see the EPF. So EPF is equivalent to a Hong Kong MPF, mandatory pensions funds. So you can see here, there are two parts. The contributions part by the employee is 9 or 11%. The rules has changed for the employees who are contributing 11%. They are now no need to contribute 11%. They now contribute 9%. So for the employer part is 12 or 13%, subject to the monthly salary. If you have less than 5,000 ringgit, so you are subject to 12%, the employer is subject to 12% of the EPF. So next we'll come to what we call SOCSO, Social Security. So this Social Security, it's for to cover the insurance for if, let's say, the employees got injured during the contractual employment period. So it's 1.75% plus 0.5%, and also employment insurance scheme, which is the 1.25% of employees' monthly salary contributed solely by the employer. So the last part, we will talk about a case study. So it's very simple case study. I think Dr. Lawrence also mentions, actually, you can do 100% of foreign-owned company in Malaysia. So there are very simple questions how to structure it that my client always asks me. So if I have a company which called ABC, it's a Hong Kong limited company. Can I use that particular entity to own my Malaysia subsidiaries, like as the 100% shareholders? The answer is yes. You can incorporate a private limited company in Malaysia, and the 100% shareholders can be ABC Hong Kong Limited Company, which is wholly owned by you, or yeah, that would be the case. So that would be my sharing for today. Yes, any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thanks, Janice. A very important, the legal infrastructure, okay, is always very important, when we enter into any country, any place to do anything. Obviously, we had to understand what about the law, right? What defines legality, So I think that this is the most basic things that we need to know. So thanks a lot. Okay, those advice are really essential and helpful for our prospective investors and people who would like to explore Malaysia. Yes. Janice?
So there is one question from the audience. Can we register the limited company by ourselves if we have the Malaysians be the directors? I would say yes, because registering a company in Malaysia is pretty straightforward. You can go to the government website in the SSM. You can do it by just doing it online, and it's very efficient as well. Within 4 or 5 days, you can have an entity incorporated. Thank you.
Hi, welcome back. Now we come to the panel discussion session of the workshop. Joining me to chair the panel discussion is Dr. Wilson Chen, our professional and international advisor of the CSHK, of the Research Center for Sustainable Hong Kong. And our discussant, Ms. Aswani Ahmed, Consul General of Malaysia in Hong Kong. Well, I think before we start the Q&A, okay, from the participants, we'd like to hear more from Eswani, your comments on today, okay, any observations and any comments on the cultural aspects. Wilson, you got something to share first?
Yes, following up the discussion before with Lawrence and Janice, we are talking about Malaysian. When we invest in Malaysian, so we must know their culture. For example, could I touch your head? For example, so I shake your hand with another hand. So I'm quite sure the conclusion, I try to sum them up in this page, or everyone, you could use your trading pack, page 64. You can see some of the investment environment. The conclusion of this page, I would like to use only one word: harmony nation. So I'm quite sure when everyone goes to Malaysia, you will feel not like other country. You will be treated very harmony, even though you can talk to them directly or indirectly. For example, for meeting, for language or communication. So, but I'm not the right person to describe many. So Ms. East would like to share with us more about how to go to Malaysia to do business with understanding more culture of you.
Okay, Dr. Wilson, thank you. Again, thank you to CityU and the co-organizers for having us at the webinar today. So my name is Izwani Ahmad. So I'm the Trade Commissioner at the Consulate General of Malaysia here in Hong Kong, out in the Trade Office. All right. So basically my job here is to promote bilateral trade between Malaysia and Hong Kong, and as well as promoting Malaysian products and services here in Hong Kong. Okay, generally from the slide that you just seen, maybe when you see it, it's a bit complicated, but generally I would say that Malaysia is a multicultural country. So basically we have inherited customs from different countries, you know, because we have three major ethnicities in Malaysia, which are Malays, Chinese, and Indians, and other indigenous tribes, right? So from this inherited culture and tradition, so basically, and it is also blended with learned foreign culture. So Malaysia is basically what we can say a hot pot of cultures, right? So I would say that the underlying core values in Malaysia, because we are multicultural, so basically we respect and value each other. Okay, we are religiously sensitive because we have so many religions in Malaysia, and we also try to be to compromise and understand each other, right? Okay, I would say generally the main tip I would advise is that tailor your business etiquette based on the different ethnic groups, right? So like I said, we have predominantly nearly 70% of Malaysians are Malay. So generally most Malays are Muslims, okay? So there are some sensitivities in being Muslims. So among them is that we are not allowed to drink alcohol, we are not allowed to eat pork, and other limitations, okay? And also, if you know that most Muslim women wear headscarves, right? So generally, when you want to try to, when you meet a Malaysian women, Muslim business woman, you need to be sensitive in a way that, you know, generally they are very, in a way you cannot hug or simply want to touch her. So you have to observe her if she's comfortable, in shaking hands or not. So generally just observe whether they extend your hand to you or not. Okay. And other than that, I would say like in Chinese culture, there are other, I would say it's quite similar with other countries as well, right? On the Chinese culture. But I would say because that we are Malay, Chinese and Indians, we have developed in a way a Malaysian culture. Okay, so I would say that the Malaysian culture, in the Malaysian culture, just keep an eye on non-verbal cues. Okay, meaning that you look at their body language, you look at the voice tones, you look at the expressions. Okay, so in Malaysia we have the concept of we don't want to lose face, right? So meaning that we don't want to be embarrassed ourselves or to embarrass the other party. So with this, so we don't want to directly tell people, right? So that's why be aware with the body language or other words that they may say to you to indicate certain things, but won't tell you directly that they are maybe are not comfortable in doing things or talking about certain things, right? So it's a bit complicated, but generally we try to be respectful. So hence certain topics should not be brought up. Usually when in direct business negotiations, try to not talk about politics unless you have known them for a long time, or even some religious issues, right? So yeah, I would say in Malaysia as well, patience is a virtue. I noticed that in Hong Kong, you do things very fast. You want things straight away. But in Malaysia, we takes things slowly a bit. And so when it comes to business negotiations with Malaysian, so I expect a bit more long hours and longer discussions, right? So, and because they just want to get to know you more and understand what you want from them, so that they understand, they also can understand what they can give to you. Okay, all right. So from the slides, if you can show the slides, Professor Wilson. I don't see here. Okay, from the slide, and I think it's in the training pack as well. Page 64, you can see that as I mentioned, all the religious and ethnic groups. Okay, so in terms of the names, generally these are some of the tips that you have to know, because I'm facing it here in Hong Kong because my name is Izwani Ahmad. So Izwani is my first name. Ahmad is my father's name. It's not my surname. So most Malay Muslim, we don't use surnames. So because usually our names is daughter of or son of. Okay. So when people call me Miss Ahmad, I generally don't answer because technically that is my father's name. So but the more I stay here, then I realize, oh, Ahmad is me, So yeah, so just be aware of that. So when you call the last name, which is not actually our surname, we tend to not answer it because it's our first name. People address us by our first name. But and same goes to Indians as well. Their names are similar to the Malay names, where they are son of or daughter of. So you don't call the second name; it's always the first name. While with Chinese, you tend to have like Liu. Liu is Lawrence's surname. Then you can call him Mr. Liu, or Janice Chu, and Miss Chu. So it's more general that way. But when it comes to Malays and Indians, we are not called by our second name. Okay. And then we have a few titles in Malaysia, because in Malaysia, the federal government and the state governments tend to give in a way some we call it medals, right? Some medals to certain individuals. either by the federal governments or the state government, the rulers, the sultans of the certain states. So hence you see certain names, they don't put Mr. or Miss or Mrs. You can see from the slide, you can see Tun, Tan Sri, like you see today, Dato' Lawrence Liu. So that's a title that he got. Okay, so generally, Malaysians really value these titles because they are given, they are highly decorated people. Most titles are given by the federal government or by the sultans, by the kings in certain states or in the federal government. So it's a very prestigious titles. So hence, when you see the people that you are doing business with that who has these titles, please address them accordingly. But generally, in the end, it goes back to how friendly you are with them. You know, some of them may say, "Oh no, you don't need to call me. Just call me by my first name." So generally, it depends on the person themselves, right? Okay, language-wise, I would say the official language of Malaysia is Bahasa Melayu, Bahasa Malaysia. Okay, but English, I would say, is the lingua franca of Malaysia. It's our second language, and almost everybody can speak English. All right, so and when you come across the other ethnic groups, then they can, for Chinese, they speak Cantonese, Hokkien, and while for Indians, they can speak, Tamil, Hindi, Telugu. Those are the various ethnic languages for Indians. Okay. But Malay, generally, we speak Bahasa Malaysia and English, okay? And like I said, in a way that all these various cultures and ethnic groups, just be aware of the sensitivities of all these ethnic groups. Generally, I think for Chinese, maybe for Hong Kong people, may have similar values and traditions, while here you may not be aware about the Malay or Indian cultures. So like I said before, be aware of certain religious limitations, especially for Muslims. Okay, and then yeah, I mean, but generally Malaysians are pretty laid back. Okay. So we are very friendly. Just like I said, just be sensitive to certain things, right? But generally we're not uptight people. We're very generous. We like to laugh, all right? We like to eat. So those are the ways to our hearts. Okay, all right.
Thank you so much. I'm quite sure everyone, if you want to do your business successfully, you must know the culture. Otherwise, you can't really contact or understand them. So you won't be the one to success.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the tips on the culture.
Yeah.
Yes, thanks for the tips on the culture. I think this is very important. After all, we are warm bodies, human being, right? So, yes. But I think I get a lot of. I think we have a lot in common. Who wants to lose face, yes. Right? Nobody wants to lose face, right? So I think there is of course there will be. There might be subtle differences, okay, different, but most differences is a difference in degree rather than in kind.
True.
So a lot of times, maybe if we are patient enough, then even if sometimes I have some frustrations because we don't know what exactly is the difference in degree, right? Yeah. But I might get some hiccups, right? Yes. But I will learn, and I think the good. I mean, the Malaysian, my friends, because they are patient as well. They're good people as well, right? So they would forgive me, right? Yes. Forgive me, right? So I think that's how people go together.
True,
right?
true.
Thank you. Well, we have collected a few questions from the audience, from the participants so far. So let us go through, ask our speakers to respond to them. The first one. Which come in a bit earlier. It's on questions about government investment in education. and high-tech industries. So I'd like to address, maybe Mr. Savandi, would you like to address this question? So the question is about okay, tax holidays are obviously very, very important, right? But so the participant would like to understand what the Malaysian government has invested in education to foster local talent, and whether there is any restrictions governing the percentage of local workers vis-a-vis imported talent in a foreign invested company. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Linda. Okay, regarding on the education for the Malaysian, government has invested a lot within our education system in Malaysia. So apart from the university level, we also have TVET. It's a vocational skill work institution to upgrade. So for any new investor, especially in the high-end industry, electrical and electronic, I think this Dr. Lawrence, since you have a company in Penang, you might want to share some of your experience also in the electrical and electronic industry. So for this type of company within this sector, if the talent is not available, it can be developed through a TVET school in Penang, which is we call as a Penang Skill Development Center. This is a dedicated institution for electrical and electronic industry. All right. So apart from the PSDC, Penang Skill Development Center, in other states, we also have a EdTech, we call it, EdTech. So this is in Ipoh, is in Perak, is basically to support the automotive industry and also machinery and engineering. And there is some cases also where company, we link them up with the local university, such as Electric Solar, a company in Pahang. We link them up with the University Malaysia of Pahang. So to train the final year student, so by the time they finish their studies, they can be absorbed straight away into Electric Solar. So there's a lot of successful cases and a lot of ways we can do in order to supply the local talent to the company, the new investor that coming into Malaysia, even for the existing company also, when they go for expansion. So they need more workers and all that. So it can be trained and can be developed, the Malaysian. As for the current policy on the percentage of ratio, local and also foreign workers within the company, current policy is 80-20. 80% has to be local and 20% has to be can be foreign. But this is only applied to the general worker. So I hope that answered the question.
Mr. Savandi. The next question is from one of our participant here. Peter, would you like to raise the question yourself? Yes.
Yes, certainly. As you know, nowadays, I mean, digital currency or cryptocurrency become very popular in many.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Sorry. What's the potential of digital currency and cryptocurrency in Malaysia? The reason is for digital currency, the charge is lower and it's transparent. So I just wonder what's the potential or any policy towards the development of digital currency in Malaysia?
Currently, there is we haven't formulated any policy, especially on the cryptocurrency in Malaysia. So the existing policy that has been launched by the government of Malaysia through collaboration between MDEC, Multimedia Development Corporation, under the Ministry of Science and Technology, is on the digital blueprint. So we hope this will spur up the development of digital currency and also cryptocurrency in the future.
Okay, thanks. Thanks both. Mr. Yap, you got some comments? Yes. Yes.
Okay, if I can add also, maybe I can backtrack a bit to the previous question, which my colleague Sawadi answered, related to high-tech education and investment. I think he's right that the Malaysian government, we have dedicated quite a significant portion of our national expenditure on education, including public universities. The private higher education environment in Malaysia is also very mature, very developed. I think as many of you know, there's a Xiamen University Malaysia, Xiamen University campus in Malaysia, which I think is one of the first, if it is the first prominent Chinese university which established a campus outside the mainland. So I think, people looking outside, they can feel fairly confident in the education process. Speaking broadly, I mentioned very briefly in my opening remarks that Malaysia has launched its digital economy blueprint. We hope that Malaysia will be one of the first amongst the region to implement and put in place a 5G ecosystem. And also, the government is very focused on also moving up the value chain of our industries to take into account like high-tech, high-value manufacturing and other related industries. So hopefully, with that education part and also the economic policy part, so that will also help what the question was asking. I think the other question was from yourself about Malaysia digital currency. Besides what Sawadi mentioned, I understand that our central bank, Bank Negara, they have also, I think it has been reported in the news that they're planning to run a proof of concept project to gauge the merits of a central bank digital currency. So, we're all keeping an eye we're keeping an eye on it, but the efforts, the focus is there.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks, Mr. Yap, our CG here. Alan, you got a question?
Yeah, I won't say this is a question, but as the Hong Kong resident, our company has been established they set up in Malaysia more than close to about 2 decades. Yeah, in that case, I believe it's better for me to share some of the, what has been done in Malaysia and what can be done for our newcomers to Malaysia as well. Yeah, as a couple of the distinguished speakers has been mentioned about the advantage of the Malaysia actually is quite good, because like when Lawrence showed the chart, like in Hong Kong, we have around 7.5 million population here in Hong Kong. But like in Malaysian, in talking about Malaysian Chinese, is more than 8 million people. Yeah, that's within their surrounding area. In talking about bigger than Hong Kong, and in fact, like I also come from the academic as well. Used to be work for Hong Kong Youth for so many years, but like in fact in Malaysia, there are so many prestigious private universities as well, and also some of those from overseas. And as our CEO also mentioned about the Xiamen Daishe, and the Xiamen University is the one and only one has been got the permission from mainland China to establish their campus in Malaysia. But like from overseas, there's a couple of the like Curtin and Monash, and also some other UK university as well. In fact, the former Vice Chancellor of the Monash University is also the former head of the accounting firm CityU. Yeah, Professor Ferdinand Gu. And that's why, like as I say, like there's so many Hong Kong prestigious talents also. I won't say migrate, but like they did have to set up their second career in Malaysia. And also like for the language, like in Malaysia, well, I always educate my student. Like now, the student in Hong Kong is not competing with the student from from mainland. Actually, they are going to compete with the student from Malaysia. Yeah, because like as Lawrence and Janice also mentioned about, like in Malaysia, they are quite these two gentlemen on the speaker is very humble, because like every single people from Malaysia, at least they speak more than 6 different kind of languages. Yeah, but like their salary is 1/3 of what you are paying here in Hong Kong. And that's why like even though Lawrence mentioned about well 30,000 Hong Kong dollars you can hire the PhD, but in fact you pay more. Supposed to be you can pay less than that as well in Malaysia. And that's why like in especially talking about the ringgit, because in Malaysia like I always love to try to love to go to Malaysia for development, because like the financial support and also the cost of living in Malaysia is quite attractive to our people in Hong Kong, because like we have a spacious like around 3,000 square feet in Malaysia, and the monthly rental in Hong Kong is talking about this side of the rental will be charged around at least 100,000 per month, which is we are paying here in Hong Kong office. But like in Malaysia we pay just around less than 20,000 Hong Kong dollars for 3,000 square feet. And that's why like you can see how well you can invest more in Malaysia. And also like the final I would say the information can be shared like well, since one of the speaker also mentioned about the currency, because like in Malaysia like in Hong Kong we have a cyberport. And then we will also have a SME as well. But like in Malaysia, they also have a cyber giant. Yeah, just as similar as the development of the cyberport in Hong Kong. That's why that you might be getting a lot of the funding there, and also the SME support, and from different kind of the authorization as well. Now in that case, like well, I just want to share like there's so many huge opportunity that you can to invest in Malaysia. Yeah, because like especially the currency. Yeah, and also one final comment, like talking about the wheaties, talking about the food, right? If the people, anyone like the durian, okay, but in Hong Kong, most of the people just know Mao San Wang, but like in Malaysia, well, they treat it Mao San Wang is already normal. Yeah, just 150 Hong Kong dollars you can have a buffet, okay? But like in Malaysia, well, if you want, I can bring you to eat something what we call hati. Yeah, the best durian in Malaysia. Another one, the second tier is a kampong. Those like you cannot get it in Hong Kong, because like some of the item they only don't allow to export to the other country, and that's why like and this is the kind of the competitive advantage than the other ASEAN country. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Well, what we learn again is that there are lots of activities ongoing, okay, from Hong Kong to Malaysia, okay. So for those who are considering, you can be assured that you are not alone, okay. So so I think this is an important message. Well, I have one question from a participant, which is on the cultural and religious side. So Asmani, okay. So the question is about, you know, knowing that Malaysia is a multi-religion country, okay. So for foreign investor, if they want to set up a kind of a religion neutral company in Malaysia, what other things they should bear in mind to make it effective and culturally sensitive? Yeah.
All right. Okay. Basically, like I said, when you plan to set up a business in Malaysia, just be aware of the different ethnicities, right? So if you want a religion neutral environment, you can, but but still you have to be sensitive as well on what can certain religion can or cannot do, right? So for instance, like I said, in food, right? For Muslim, you can't eat pork, right? So you have to be aware on those things. So better if let's say you want to set up a business or that you want to provide a canteen for your staff, right? Just be aware to to be aware of the differences of the types of food that certain people can or cannot eat, or can be mixed or not. Like for us Muslim, we don't eat food that will be mixed in pork, right? So you just have to be aware, because I understand that other people do eat pork as well, right? So you have to, in Malaysia, usually what we do, we create a halal section. So halal is basically food that are for Muslim people, right? They are slaughtered properly in a Muslim way, and then you can serve others as well. But generally in Malaysia, people tend to not serve pork just because everyone can eat. Basically, pork is not generally eaten by everybody, right? So they just do without pork meat in their canteen, right? And other things. But generally, it's not to say that we are sensitive, like very overtly sensitive, but to be in a way culturally inclusive, I would say, right? Just be inclusive and be aware of the differences of the many ethnicities, and if everyone are tolerant and respect, I would say there will be no problem in that workplace.
Yeah, if I can add on to is this feedback, I think it's also important not to be too overly concerned about the Islamic side of things. True, Islam is the religion of the country, but Malaysia is also very business friendly. So assuming that if you're a Hong Kong investor or a businessman and you set up shop or business in Malaysia, most likely it will be in a highly urbanized center like Kuala Lumpur or Penang, which, like Hong Kong is very, very multicultural. I would imagine that the office setup, putting aside legal requirements or the sector or the industry you're in, maybe if you're in the F&B industry, you may have to pay a bit of attention on halal certification, but the cultural atmosphere in the office, it won't be that much dissimilar from what you find in an office in Central or something, right? There are no, legal requirements related to putting something Islamic in your office or something. So no, right? This is Malaysia, not another country that's in the news lately, right? So that's what I wanted to add. True, there are some cultural sensitivities that you got to pay attention to, not just Islamic or Malay cultural sensitivities. There are also the Chinese, Tamil, Indian, the indigenous people. So there are many aspects to it. But as fellow Asians, I think most of us would be very adaptable to some place like Malaysia. So if you are thinking of going to Malaysia and you have concerns from a religious aspect, you should be rest assured that your concerns is a bit overstated, right? Thank you.
For example, should I bring a bottle of wine to your dinner?
Well, I mean that would depend on who you're having dinner with, obviously, right? So if you were having dinner with me, if before I got married to my wife and before I converted, then you can bring it, right? But now, then maybe you can bring like a sparkling juice or something.
Yeah. So
okay, we got some intelligence again.
Yeah. So just be culturally sensitive, right? I said. So I think when you meet people, when you are doing business negotiation, of course you want to impress people, right? So yeah, but generally, like I said, when you are aware of that, who are they, where they come from. So generally you would know what to do. It's not that everyone are sensitive, but we understand. And for Malaysian also, we are very understanding that most foreigners may not know our way of life, right? Especially Muslims. So generally we are very much, quite, like I said, we are very laid back people. So when a foreigner who does not know much about Islam, so sometimes for me, as also people tend to give me wine and everything. So we just like, oh, okay, no, thank you. But sometimes we just accept, like I said, the face, we don't want to lose face. So they tend to accept and usually give away to other people, right? But yeah, but to just be on the giving side, right? The person who are giving, like I said, like CG said, just be sensitive. And we will not like scold everyone, those kind of things. Like I said, we have face to we don't want to lose face, right? But yeah, it's not like something big, but generally each of us will be more sensitive towards each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just to summarize what my CG, Azwani, and Mr. Willie has shared. Malaysia, we have been independent for more than 60 years already. So yes, back then we have Malaysian Chinese, Malaysian Indian, Malaysian Malay. But after 60 years, the three different races, they even comes to the extent of cross marriage, cross-cultural marriage and all that. So different races way life of living is being absorbed to others and all that. So it's a cross. Yeah. So as what Mr. Willie has mentioned, there's no difference between Malaysia or even Hong Kong. The way of doing business, legal system, law, by being under the Commonwealth country is mostly similar. And the way the Malaysian enjoy life, we are human, just like the Hong Kongers also, right? So yes, halal and non-halal. If you go to Malaysia, you can even see the non-halal restaurant next neighbor to the halal restaurant. So you have an option there. You want to go for the halal restaurant, you go to the next door. If you want the non-halal food, you go to the neighbor restaurant and all that. So the way of doing business is still the same. There's no difference. Even for me, being a Malaysian Malay Muslim working in Guangzhou in China, to me, there's no difference with Malaysia, because before coming to Guangzhou, I was based in Ipoh, Perak. There's a lot of Malaysian Chinese and Chinese restaurant over there. But still, you can see the people there live, they live happily, peacefully next to each other, enjoy their breakfast, enjoy their lunch, enjoy their life after work. So the quality of living is there.
Thank you, Mr. Sawandi. I think culture really is a topic that attracts our attention, right? And so we have so much a vibrant discussion. But I think the message is very reassuring. First of all, I think it's always be good to pay attention to the others' culture, because that is the way we pay respect, right? But on the other hand, there's no need to become over worried, right? Because I think I think the other side would know that you're putting effort. I think that message is the most important. So whatever hiccups we might have, obviously we will always have some hiccups, but we will learn. I think that's the message, right? So I think that is very important. Well, I think we can have one final question. And Phyllis, you got the questions on the professionals? Yes.
Yes, because as our title of the workshop, we would like our workshop to bring some message or some opportunity for our professional service in Hong Kong. So I would like to ask Lawrence and also Janice is that what are the potential for Hong Kong professionals, for example, professional accountants, lawyers, to expand their business in Malaysia?
Okay, I think the structure, the profile of the CPA firms in Malaysia is actually very similar to Hong Kong. It's almost identical. You have the big four, then you have the top 20, and all the names you're familiar with, they are basically there. And as you know, for the Bursa Malaysia or the stock exchange, there are certain requirement that some of the audit has to be audited by the big four, for example, if you are at a certain level. So I think the profile of the firms are fairly similar. And then you obviously have a lot of local firms. Local firms tends to be very localized in that district or state. So then you have a national firm where the firm would have branches in Penang, Johor, Kuala Lumpur, and Sabah, Sarawak. So this is called a national firm. So these are already the mid-tiers. I think for business opportunity, you really have to go in and say, look, where is my customers are, and you look for a national firm so that it's represented in maybe Selangor, Penang, and Johor, and so on, so that you have a national firm, and then you probably form an alliance with them. Okay. And on the salary side, I think she was quite interested. So I'm sharing with you the screen on what is the salary range of accounting professionals in Malaysia. At the top of the range, you have the CFO, which is basically the top tier. You're looking at basically R1 million a year. So that's 2 million Hong Kong. I think equivalent here, you'll be looking at probably 4 or 5 million Hong Kong at the top tier level in Hong Kong, you know. So, and then you have tax managers at 30,000 Hong Kong dollar. So that is a kind of range that you'll be looking at. I think you still find that, as I said, you still go back to the same point. You have a Mercedes for the price of a Toyota. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add something because I'm running a Hong Kong law firm in Hong Kong, and then we do have a Malaysia office as well. So in terms of your second questions, what will be the investment opportunities for professional services? I think the main and the attractive Malaysian can offer is in terms of the label. Yeah, because our label is really reasonable in terms of the price. So there are lots of CPA firms, they already have their back office. They set up their back office in Malaysia. So in terms of like doing the bookkeeping, the accounts, of course, because different jurisdictions, you might need to have different qualifications. So if let's say the CPA firm in Hong Kong, they would like to expand the service in Malaysia, then they need to have someone who is qualified in Malaysia as well. Apart from that, maybe you can have a back office to support you know, your functions, your operation in Hong Kong as well. So for me, because I'm qualified in Malaysia, so I can have a law firm if I want to in Malaysia and also in Hong Kong. But of course, I'm a Hong Kong qualified lawyer as well. So I think in terms of label would be very attractive for Malaysia.
Maybe I would like to add also on the opportunities for professional services in Malaysia. I think you may want because we want to encourage cross-border trade, right? So a lot of Malaysians are considering doing business in Hong Kong, in mainland China, and vice versa, right? So a lot of the either the Hong Kong enterprises or the Malaysian enterprises, you know, require local expertise in setting up their businesses abroad, or Hong Kong enterprises require setting up businesses in Malaysia. So as you can see now, Malaysia also, we do a lot of businesses in Africa and the Middle East. So we are fairly, in a way, familiar with that markets. So another opportunity is for the Hong Kong professional services. They can actually partner with Malaysian firms to look at those markets that we are very known for, you know, because a lot of them are predominantly Muslim markets, and for professional services, especially engineering and others, we have a lot of businesses there. So I think that partnership is good. It's either looking at Malaysia, going to the other markets that Malaysia are strong at, or for Malaysians to go into GBA, right? So the Greater Bay Area, we are still unfamiliar with the markets, but we do want experts to guide the Malaysian companies to go to these markets as well. So I think I would say that this one of the opportunities for both sides.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a very important question. So that's the most aimed to conclude this panel discussion. Well, before we draw to a close today, okay, let me thank again all the distinguished speakers, and of course our CG, okay, Mr. Yap, for coming to the venue to address the workshop and to actually provide very insightful comments to a number of questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we hope all of us have a good day. Thank you all of the speakers and our guests for coming to the CityU campus today.